TIFU by making an abandoned baby joke. This actually happened last weekend. While I'm still reeling from the cringe, it occurred to me today that you all might enjoy hearing how I inserted my foot in my mouth. I, 34F, am staunchly child-free and don't have any kids of my own. I actually do like babies and kids just fine. However, I definitely like to make jokes about how inconvenient they are. So over the weekend, a colleague of mine, 33M, was telling me about how on his recent flight from the Atlanta airport someone left a baby in the TSA line. He said at first it seemed like someone just stepped away. But then there was a pretty big fuss and it seemed like someone actually just abandoned the baby there. After some giggling, I said, well, I mean I can't really blame them. Babies are super annoying to fly with. He chuckled a little and that was that. Fast forward to later in the evening. A few beers in, we get on the subject of our parents. He mentioned both of his parents were deceased but also that he was adopted. Me. Oh, I didn't know what you were adopted. Were you adopted as a baby or when you were older? Quote, him. As a baby. Actually, my biological mom abandoned me at the hospital. OMG. Guys. I think my face turned like 6 shades of red. He didn't seem to make the connection to what I said earlier. But I wanted to die. TL. Dear, I made a joke insinuating that it was acceptable to abandon a baby because they are a mild inconvenience to a guy who was abandoned at birth by his mother. I wouldn't worry about it. It was mildly inappropriate and pretty funny tbh, but shouldn't make you cringe too much. You commented about abandoning a baby specifically at the airport, not in general. I think that makes it better. He was probably a mild inconvenience to her. How clingy of a coworker is he? I had just met someone at a wedding and was giving them a ride home. The subject of birthdays came up and hers was April 1st. I made the joke that her parents had her as an April Fool's joke and I thought it was funny. Found out later she was adopted. I brought it up a few months later after feeling so bad about it. Found out she didn't hear me that night, but thought the joke was hilarious. Now one of my closest friends. I really hope he was just messing with you to see how far he could take the joke and how uncomfortable you can get. Tears of joy, that would be epic. My mom died when I was 12. And, your mom, jokes bothered me for a while. But there are some pretty funny ones. And if I wanted to get in on it, I was going to have to take it. After all, it's not really about our moms. In the words of Steve Martin, back when he was funny, comedy is not pretty. They are a mild inconvenience, huh? Babies are super easy, barely an inconvenience. Wow, that is such an unfortunate and awkward situation. It's important to remember that we never know someone's personal experiences. So it's always best to be cautious with our jokes. Lol, I woulda doubled down on the recall like, well, that's better than the airport. My husband and I regularly make jokes about abandoning, selling our kids when they're being little. Horrors. Husband is adopted. Both you and your colleague come across pretty well here. He didn't respond with unnecessary volatility. And you're conscientious enough to realize the awkwardness even without him kicking up a fuss. So I don't think there'll be any issues. You shouldn't feel bad about it. But maybe reconsider your staunchly child-free policy, not in terms of yourself. It's great and legitimate if you don't want any kids. But it does sound a little like you project your own personal opinion on the subject onto others. Damn, you had your chance to ask if she had a flight. Wow, that must have been incredibly uncomfortable. It's important to be mindful of others' experiences when making jokes. You learned something. Apologize, if you haven't already, and move on. That's nothing. I made a slew of dead baby jokes in the presence of my boss that had more than one dead baby. I think I made him cry.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.